welcome to this webinar about the Transatlantic Mobility Program. And thank you very much for joining, whether you're from the US or from France. We're very grateful to have your time and your attention, and we hope to receive your proposals in the future. My name is Anna Malen, and I'm Higher Education Program Officer at the French Embassy. Vincent Michelot, who is Higher Education Attaché at the French Embassy, is also with us today. And we have the pleasure of being joined by Dorothy Heicht, who is a teaching professor in French and Francophone Studies at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and a TMP grant recipient. And she will speak to us directly from her experience of writing and implementing a TMP proposal. So thank you very much, Dorothea, for joining us today. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So you can use the chat box for your questions and your comments throughout the webinar. And the webinar is also being recorded, so we will send you the material and the recording a few days after this session. Yeah, so we realized that, you know, these are still challenging times for higher education, and more specifically for study abroad. And really the goal of the Transatlantic Mobility Program is to help higher education institutions to expand their capacity to grow and diversify study abroad programs. So the grant really focuses on institutions, and there are three main objectives of the program. So to increase the number of students that are studying abroad from underrepresented groups, to increase the number of institutions that offer study abroad programs in France and in the US, and to create and support long-term and sustainable partnerships between French and US higher education institutions. So with the Transatlantic Mobility Program, we really want higher education institutions, both in France and in the US, to collaborate and to create new study abroad programs that will give students, faculty, and staff the opportunity to participate in exchange programs. And really the purpose of today's session is for you to know more about the grant and how you can take advantage of it, and of course answer any questions that you might have. So we will start by presenting the grant briefly and go over its eligibility criteria and requirements, and also go over the application and the selection process. Before Dorothea can also maybe give some tips and talk about how she developed her proposal, and then we will have the Q&A session. So this program offers higher education institutions in France and in the US a grant of up to $15,000. And it's a joint effort between the French Embassy in the United States, the Embassy of the United States of America in France, and also we have the support of NAFSA and the FACE Foundation. And since its creation in 2014, the program has launched 8 calls for proposals, and 58 institutions have been awarded a grant. So we're going to focus now on the point of this webinar, which is to present the call for proposals. And so let's chat about eligibility criteria first. So we are looking for a diverse set of higher education institutions. So previous recipients of the grant include community colleges, large and small universities, private institutions. So all US higher education institutions located and legally registered in the US are eligible, as well as French higher education institutions, so including universities, Grande École, all the private and public schools and institutes, that are recognized in France. However, US branch institutions in France are not eligible, and third-party providers cannot apply to the grant as themselves. They can be partners, but the grant is really must go to either a French or a US higher education institution. And these various institutional situations will be considered when we review the applications. The proposals can involve either a new institutional partnership or build on a partnership that is already existing. Institutions that have already received funding under the TMP in the last 5 years are not eligible. There is a list of previous grantees on our website if you want to see if your institution already received it. But proposal with a different French or US partner institution are exempt from the 5-year rule. Also, if your institution has already submitted an application, but you want to apply for the grant again, please contact us, because maybe the proposal was emanated from a different department within your institutions, and in that case, you might be eligible for the grant. One of the main requirements of the grant is that institutions can match the grant that we offer. So basically, this means that the grant cannot represent more than 50% of your total budget for the program. And to match the grant, you can leverage funds from institutional, internal or external sources. Also, since last year, so since the 2021 call for proposals, the program has evolved a little bit in its missions. First of all, due to the pandemic, and also because we received the very generous support of the Embassy of the United States in France. And so last year's call for proposals and this year call for proposals really insist more on reciprocity between American and French institutions. So reciprocity is really highly encouraged and preferred. But of course, it can be asymmetrical because we know that the needs in terms of student mobility are not the same in France and in the US. The program also supports more hybrid collaborations. So in-person or physical mobility is required for the grant, but we encourage programs that will have, that will maybe include some online activities, especially if they kind of prepare for the in-person activities. And we are also looking for stronger and more sustainable partnerships between institutions, really that could resist in a way a potential crisis such as the pandemic. And this year, we will also look more closely at projects that will address one of the following topics, although the list is not, so it serves more as a guideline. So it's not a limiting list. So the topics are technology and innovation, climate, energy, and the environment, and economic development and entrepreneurship. So in the application form, you will have to give a program description, and if your program fits into one of these topics, please describe how it is linked to one of these areas. Also, to go into more details, so there are no minimum or maximum number of student participants, although of course the more students across the Atlantic, the better. There's no minimum or maximum lengths of stay in the partner country, although long-term mobility is usually preferred. Students will have to receive some academic credit from the home institution, either during or as a result of the proposed program, and students can be at any level of post-secondary education, so undergraduate, graduate, or doctoral. Special consideration will be given to proposals that are that will benefit underserved, non-traditional, and diverse student populations. And in your proposal, you should explain how you intend to target and include underrepresented students by providing a recruitment strategy to reach these diverse groups. So the TMP is a seed grant, so it means that one of its primary goals is to provide institutions with an incentive to develop a study abroad program and a partnership. So it is a one-time allocation, but proposals should not be viewed as a one-year project. So the grant period is from September 2022 to the end of the year of 2023, but proposals should really include activities beyond these dates to demonstrate that there is a continuation of the program beyond the grant period. And we will be looking for an ongoing commitment to increase student participation after the end of the grant period. And there are several ways to integrate the one-year grant activities into the institution to maintain the study abroad programs that will be initiated by the grants. So, for example, the creation of curriculum models that can be replicable and that will help reach new student populations, maybe facilitating some kind of curricular integration of the proposed program. And also, I think we think faculty engagement is key to ensure the integration of study abroad into the mission of the university and to improve sustainability. So, you know, the more people are involved into the creation of a program, the more sustainable it is. And to do that, for example, you can build maybe interdisciplinary programs that would combine social sciences and STEM and really involve more people and more faculty. And really, when you apply for the grant and when you receive the grant, usually this helps institutions to leverage continued institutional support from their leadership for the program. And usually applying and receiving the grant helps you gain more awareness and support for study abroad across your campus. So now we're going to take a deeper dive into the application and the selection process for the grant. So to apply to the grant, you will have to complete our online application form. So the link will probably be dropped in the chat. And we really strongly encourage you to read the application guidelines that we wrote to make sure that you submit a correct and a complete application. And in this document, there is a template of the application form, which you can use to draft your proposal before you actually submit it on the online form. The application can be submitted by either the US or the French institution. So in the online form, you will be able to indicate which institution will be the project leader. And the project leader will be the institution that will receive the funds if selected and manage the funds. You will also be asked to provide a program description where you should explain how you will collaborate with your partner to increase student participation in study abroad, the imagined impact of the program, and also the proposed student activities and a timeline of your program. You should also explain how you intend to recruit a new student population for your program. There is a specific box for that in the online application form. And we also ask you to submit a sustainability plan. So there is also a specific section for that in the application form, where you should indicate your plan for continuing the program after the funding period concludes, and how you will continue to grow the program after the grant period. And you should also present a budget summary, and there is also a specific space for a budget narrative, where you will be able to justify the costs as appropriate for and necessary for the completion of the proposed activities. So a portion of the grant can be used to provide individual travel grants to students, but this should not represent more than half of the grants. And also students that receive travel grants will be expected to serve as ambassadors for the initiative and for your program. So with your application, you will be asked to submit the following documents. So a letter of support from the US institution's leadership, a letter of support from the French institution's leadership, and a CV or a brief bio for each of the project coordinators. And if you have any difficulties at some point submitting your application online, please send me an email and we will see how we can maybe find an alternative solution for you to submit an application. In terms of timeline, the application deadline is June 1st, and you should receive the results of the grant competition in July. So for the selection process, applications will first undergo a preliminary review for eligibility, and we'll check basically if the application is complete. And then applications will be sent to the cultural attachés in the consulates of the consulate districts of the French embassy. And the final jury will use their conclusions and their recommendations to help in the final selection. And the jury will mainly look at whether the project that you proposed is feasible within the time and the cost restraint of the grant, and also, of course, that it is sustainable following the end of the grant period. So to sum up the previous section, I would say that a successful proposal should significantly increase the number of students that take part in a study abroad program in France and in the US. It should obtain institutional support and build new study abroad infrastructure in your institution. It should secure additional resources, so leveraging funds from alternative sources, either internal or external, that will help sustain the proposed program and the partnership. It should strengthen partnerships between your institutions, so between the US and the French institutions, and also it should develop new study abroad models and engage new student populations. If selected, the grantees will have to submit a report to our team at the end of the grant cycle. I also wanted to mention a tool that we created last year that is meant to help French and US institutions find a partner. So last year, in partnership with the Embassy of the United States in France, and in partnership with the American Association of States, Colleges and Universities, we launched what we call the Find Partner Initiative. So it's an online tool. We basically invite institutions, French and US institutions, to create what we called an institutional profile or a snapshot profile by filling an online form and answering questions such as, how would you describe your institution? What are your main strengths in terms of internationalization? What are you looking for in a French or a US partner? These are example of questions that you will have to answer in the online form. And once you have completed the form, the institutional profile is automatically uploaded, or at least it appears on an online platform where institutions can look through all the institutional profiles that were created and search for a potential partner, for a potential match. And you can use different filters to really find compatibilities, and there's also a search bar, and you can use keywords to really find a match with your needs. We have received more than 150 institutional profiles, so you can already start looking for a partner in the different profiles we received. And this project is really a beta version of a more advanced platform to come. So we're working with the Embassy of the US in France to create a dedicated website where institutions will be able to search through an even larger number of profiles, and the profiles that were already created, of course, and that will be transferred, we hope, to the new website, so with even more profiles. All right, I think that's it for the presentation of the TMP grant and the call for proposal. So I will now leave the floor to Dorothea, so from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And so with the University Paul Valéry Montpellier, they received the grant, the TMP grant in 2021, so last year. And she will share with us how they successfully developed and implemented the TMP grant.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. So the grant writing process really emerged from a need. We were lucky to have an existing partnership between UNC Chapel Hill and Université Paul Valéry in Montpellier. That dates from 1976, and we are hoping to celebrate our 50-year anniversary in a few years. However, given the pandemic, that program, though it's long-standing, was of course threatened with extinction, such as many in-house programs are in the pandemic. So we thought we needed to do something, and we had known for a while about the existence of this grant. And so we decided in May last year that we were going to seize the opportunity and apply for it. And I was very lucky that we have a resident director in Montpellier, who is an alumna of our own program here in Chapel Hill. And we, in addition, we were lucky to have the tireless institutional head for partnerships with America and Canada, and I think also Australia, and that's Nicolas Gachon, who is also professor of the history and civilization of the US. And so between the three of us, we worked for 2 weeks straight, a little bit more because there was some prep work, but key to the success of writing the grant was that we were available to each other and would be able and would regularly answer emails and look at drafts, multiple drafts at 2 a.m. in the morning. So this was a concerted effort, and it took a lot of it just took a lot of energy and commitment, and then we had this grant hammered out, and the grant has 3 pillars because we thought that we couldn't sort of put all eggs in one basket. So it has 3 pillars. One is a new language across the curriculum course. We have this program here at UNC where you can have 1 credit courses either freestanding or attached to another larger course. And so language across the curriculum is, we developed a 1 credit course on sustainability initiatives in southern France, so in the Occitania region around Montpellier. And so that was taught by our on-site director from Montpellier in the fall 21, so last fall, and it had 17 participants. And it did not only talk about sustainability efforts, but it also invited participating students to think about going on our new study abroad short-term STEM program the subsequent summer. And so that's this summer, 2021. So it was sort of a little bit of a publicity stint, although many students participated who aren't going on the program. So the second pillar of this grant was the new STEM summer program, a month long in Montpellier. And it's on environment, society, and public policy in Montpellier. It's a 3 credit course, and it is tied to a language course, a multi-tier hybrid language course that allows the maximum flexibility with regard to the students' level. So the students will take 6 credits, 3 on the content course on sustainability, and co-taught by our resident director and a biologist from UPVM, and a physicist also from Université de Montpellier. So it really is it's a team effort. And then they also will take these, we ended up having 3 different levels with 21 students, plus we were able to fund a graduate assistant. So, and this effort really is doubling our numbers going abroad, so displacing themselves. And then the third pillar sort of provides the cultural backbone of this sustainability topic, and it branches out into connecting the southern United States, southeast with the south of France. So it basically rides on the global south topic. And that's going to happen this fall. And it will connect a lower level introductory course taught in English called Globalization in the French-speaking World, which is really about post-colonialism in the French-speaking context. And it will connect that course that usually has between 40 and 50 participants to about 160 students enrolled in a class taught in Montpellier by a faculty member, Professor Nathalie Auger, who will be teaching on didactique interculturelle, so intercultural communication. And so this is a really exciting effort, and I will be teaching the American sort of part, and then we will connect post-colonialism and intercultural communication. So this, and there's going to be about over 200 students participating, the majority of whom will be in France. And so hopefully they might be interested in visiting us as a consequence of this course. then the outcome of this is hopefully going to be a more integrated curriculum. We've already discussed this. We are hoping to have on the undergraduate, but even on the master's level, some integrated curricular efforts, not entirely integrated curricula, but let's say sets of 3 classes that go well together and that will help students who go abroad from both institutions advance in their majors or minors. So we are in the process of figuring out which sets of 3 classes would lend themselves for this somewhat integrated curricular effort. So this is this is basically the overview of the grant. Anna, if you would like me to explain anything else, I'm happy to do so.
Thank you so much, Dorothea. Thank you for your insight. I'm sure this is very helpful to everyone here. I know also that Isabella, who is also a TMP recipient, wanted to share some of her insight. I don't know if Isabel, if you would like to.
Sure. So we got the grant. I think it was in 2016. I think from 2016 to 2018. So we were among the, one of the first. I mean, at the beginning of that grant, and we are still going strong. It was a very good talking about seed money and seed collaboration. We got the grant to collaborate with the University of Rennes and the EUT associated with the University of Rennes 1. That led to the possibility for Northern Kentucky University and Rennes to create an Erasmus collaboration. So now we are on their Erasmus Plus programs, and that increased the number of students for their school to come here now over a semester. The exchange was for internship in STEM disciplines for over the summer, but now we expanded to semesters for their students to come here. And so that's really when Anna was talking about the seed money, that can really open doors for funding too. I know that funding is all the time a big issue for study abroad and bringing the institution on board. But because the institution here somehow that created a lot of interactions and in both directions, then both schools were really happy. So we had the encouragements of Northern Kentucky University here, and Rennes, out of the blue, one day I got a message from the international office saying like, well, we would like to include you in our Erasmus proposal. Can you give us a couple of information? And from that, it ended up providing like six scholarships for students on each side. So, and we're talking, the Erasmus scholarships are stipends, so it helps a lot. Students, specifically students from underrepresented population, to not having to worry too much about the cost of going to France here, and same on the other side. So I just wanted to bring that to, after the proposal, there are a lot of possibilities, not only, coming from the French and the US government in terms of funding, but also the European Union to provide scholarships. So I just wanted to bring that up. Since now we had the funding a while ago, but it was not just one shot like you put on your slide. It keeps going.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Isabel. Would you say, maybe Dorothea or Isabel, would you say that receiving the grant has helped raise, I don't know, knowledge and awareness about your program and study abroad, maybe in general, on your campuses?
Yes, definitely. We have had 2 meetings, Zoom meetings that were opened to interested departments, the second one of which happened a few weeks ago. It's definitely raised the profile of our program. It's definitely raised the profile of the Montpellier program per se, and it is opening doors to making inroads into having our content course accepted by multiple departments, because it's based on research. There's a research component, so students can potentially get credit from different departments such as biology or food studies, or depending on the research projects that they're going to undertake. So yes, it's made a big difference.
Yeah, and I would concur with that. It's the same here. The fact that you know, France was providing money to American students to go there was already a big news on campus. You know, Northern Kentucky University is predominantly undergraduate institution, so was like, whoa, they spotted us out, you know, kind of this kind of thing. So that put the program into the spotlight, and then after that, you know, the other level of being included in the Erasmus Plus programs have brought another level of awareness. So for sure, yeah. And to everybody here, you know, I know, you know, sometimes, and I'm French, so I know the reputation of the French administration and paperwork and everything, and I've been dealing with that for sending a student abroad, like she's living in 2 weeks, and dealing with the dorms and all this. I want to say that this is not an application that is heavy on the paperwork or is heavy on getting a lot of things very complicated to get from the administration in terms of if there are some faculty here that are interested in writing the proposal, they're not going to spend a lot of time chasing the paperwork, the forms, having to fill out a lot of things. So that's what I have to say. At the time, I was really surprised because I knew the administration being a little bit more heavy on the paperwork, and I think it's also very appealing because when you do seed money, you don't want to have to write a lot of 50 pages or 60 pages. You want to do it very efficiently, and I wanted to bring that up because I know that's a reputation that needs to be broken now. It's not it's not as difficult as it used to be.
If I may just very briefly follow up on this, writing the grant, what was really, really helpful was that grant form, the online portal, and then we decided that whatever we put in the online portal, we added a PDF with the full material so that there was a coherent narrative at the very end. So I think that might be a thing to keep in mind, that in addition to there is a spot to add a PDF, and we decided to include everything in that material, in that PDF. So making it a coherent grant narrative application, and that was, it wasn't longer than 8 pages. So yes, just to confirm.
Thank you very much to both of you for your insights, for your tips. I think this is very useful, very helpful. So I guess now we can maybe start the Q&A session. I think we can either use the chat or raise your hands, and of course you can ask questions to either me, Isabel, Dorothy, or Vincent, and we will I guess be happy to answer any of your questions. I think there are already some questions in the chat. For example, there's a question about the competitiveness of the grant. I don't have the exact numbers about like the percentage of applicants that get selected. I would say it's around 20 or 25% of applicants, at least the last couple of years, that received a grant, but this can change from 1 year to the next. They can be.
Yeah, Anna, let me fill in on this. Obviously, the last 2 years have been difficult ones. for all kinds of reasons that I don't need to get into. And so we don't know exactly how many applications we're going to get. And even if we get a very high number of applications, it might be that only 50% of them are high quality. We may get a very low number of applications, but all of them are so good that we're going to have to make very difficult choices. So giving you an idea, it would be like a shot in the dark, and it's not, I think it's really, the good sign is that our budget has increased because of the generous support of the U.S. Embassy in France, that we have made reciprocity a very fundamental criterion in the evaluation of the grants. We think this is really a welcome change in the program. But other than that, it would be a lie to tell you, well, we're going to be getting, we're going to be selecting 25% or 50% of the grants. We just don't know, and so we have to accept, all of us on either side of the jury, that uncertainty. Thomas, I see that you have a question. You raise your hand.
Yes, thank you, all of you, for your time. This has been an incredibly informative webinar. I think my question is more for Dorothy. At Jackson State, we have a very strong and growing entrepreneurship program as a HBCU, and specifically for women in entrepreneurship. However, as a French professor myself, my interest is more preparing the language level so that they can get the most out of the experience. As a French professor, I imagine you're a French professor, right? Or business? Okay. How did you mitigate, especially your undergrads, to prepare them for this? Was there a proficiency test that you had, or did you recommend that juniors and seniors go after, and how did you do that? Thank you.
That's a very nice question. That was something we had to hammer out. We worked together with our study abroad office, and anyone who applied for the program needed to indicate what level of French they had taken so far, either at our institution or elsewhere. We were able to, of course, check on that with the transcripts that they had to provide also. So we got some good data there. And so we had opened it to everyone, every level, and it sort of ended up being self-selective, that we had a student group with advanced students, and we had an intermediate student group. And then we had 3 outliers who were beginners whom we rerouted to a different program. But out of the 21 students participating, about half of them were intermediate and half of them are advanced. And so we are offering 2 different courses. One is a combined 203-204 intermediate level hybrid, and then the other one is a 390 level, and that's also hybrid. And so they basically could apply, and we didn't mind, or we didn't care about the level. And then at the end, during the selection process, we figured out where the majority was going to be, and then we sort of developed the course according to it. So when we do it a second time around, we may be a little bit more directive, but since we had no idea who was going to apply, we basically just open it up to all levels. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
If I can add a little bit to that, for the STEM discipline, it's usually they speak English in the research lab where they're going to go. So French is not, I don't put it as a requirement, but well, actually I do now. I do as a requirement. I ask them to take at least 1 semester, and most of the time they take 2 semesters of French. So that really encourages them to learn the language. So even students that were not, like biologists or chemists, or they're like, oh, I want to do this research in France. And I'm like, okay, well, but this is a scholarship provided by the French government. The minimum you can do is to know how to say thank you in French. So I'm like, I kind of encouraging them, and so I said a minimum 1 semester. And because we do the selection in the phone, that and they talked to me about this possibility of having this scholarship before the fall semester. So they would enroll for the fall semester, and most of the time they continue with the spring semester before going to their internship. And when they come back, they want to continue. They want to continue taking French courses. So that's really also good, even if it's not a requirement at the beginning, you encourage them. Once they get hooked, and I have a colleague teaching French that is really good at introducing them first to the culture before even, and the language also, but mostly the culture for those students specifically going over there. Then they get hooked to it. And that's a good way to also promote them taking French courses and the French language and the French culture too.
Let me add
Thank you so much, Isabel.
let me add a few words to that. I think that the TMP program is designed to accommodate very specific needs of very different schools. And obviously, Thomas, your needs are different from the University of North Carolina's needs, which are different from other institutions that are present with us this morning. So I really want to emphasize that we're not looking at a specific type of project. We want students from the United States to discover France and want to go back. So that's a seed program in the sense that it's like as we say in French restaurants, une mise en bouche, an appetizer. We get the taste there. Wow, we want to see the rest of the menu. Okay, and so if part of the instruction has to be in English, well, so be it. I mean, this is not a criterion on which we're going to exclude institutions. Obviously, the more instruction there is in English, the better. But again, it has to fit your needs. In the same way that you have to think in terms of reciprocity. How does it fit the needs of the French students that you're going to host on your campuses? And that's really. So if I were to combine a certain number of questions that I see in the chat with that conversation we were just having, the one really very, very important criterion is sustainability. Whether you're able to reproduce the program over years. So when I see a question like, can the 23 grants be used to support scholarships to incentivize students to apply? Yeah, but if you use a lot of the money for direct grants to students, that will limit your capacity to reproduce the program or to make it happen again the next years, because it'll be less sustainable. Reciprocity is the second. But the type of students we target can be very, very different. As Anna said, very, very well, it could be undergrad, it could be grad, it could grad level. That doesn't really matter. What's really sustainability and reciprocity are the two main criteria.
Yeah, I can see also a question in the chat. So can it be a program that exists already, but for which participation could be improved? And also, I think the answer to that is yes. The grant can be used to expand and also to reach maybe, like I said, new student populations that maybe you weren't able to reach before, and the grants can help you do that. There's also a question about the matching funds and whether the information can be projected, or if it should be confirmed by the deadline. Basically, so it can be projected information. So you can, in the proposal that you will submit, indicate how you intend to leverage the funds. Although it's always better, I think, to have a letter of support, either from your leadership saying that they will support the program and they will match the funds, or from an external source if this is how you intend to match the grant.
Yeah, I mean, again, let's be realistic. We ask for matching funds. If you cannot provide any kind of provide us with any kind of certainty on the matching funds, that puts the very program in danger, because either you will not have the necessary budget in order to operate the program, or you'll be scrambling for additional support from an additional partner, and so there's really that need we have to know that you have support from your institution, and that you're going to be able to put your share of the cost on the table. And again, the reason for this is sustainability. That is to say that the grant is for 1 year, which means that if you cannot present a project that can be viable on and of itself the next year, then that's a program that we're going to be kind of like suspicious of, in the sense that we feel that we will be giving the grant, the program will operate for 1 year and then will not be able to operate the next years. Dorothea?
Yeah, if I may just follow up very briefly, getting the matching funds is probably difficult everywhere, no matter what the institution is. And so the recommendation that I would have from my very limited experience is to develop, I mean, if you can develop there something that where some of it's in English and some of it's in French, and that English part of the program, or even if everything is in French, but that one part of the program is attractive to a number of stakeholders across your campus, so that you can go and apply directly for $1,000 here, $2,000 here, $3,500 elsewhere, to deans, to department heads who just kind of buy into that program. And that really, really helped us, because we would not have been able to get that whole 15,000 from any of our units anywhere, even at UNC.
Are there any other questions? Please don't hesitate to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question.
There was one question on if we have an example about what would really not be a competitive or attractive proposal.
Well, I think it's a hard question to answer. I saw the question in the chat. I mean, again, once we've set our priorities straight, sustainability, reciprocity, sorry to repeat myself, and we are very, very open to all kinds of very different programs, and I think that what we really want is for you to give a large number of students the ability to study in France for a given period of time. It could be long, it could be short, it could be something which expands on a study abroad program, or could be a shorter form of stay. Again, we're not discriminating, but on the other hand, I mean, Anna has listed the eligibility criteria. That's where really the answer lies.
Maybe if there are no more questions, we can conclude. I don't know, Vincent, if you want to say a few words.
Well, just again, thank you so much for attending the webinar. I hope it was useful. I also want to say that there's a very dedicated staff here at the Cultural Services of the French Embassy. That we like to have questions. We do answer most of the time. I think all of the time, actually, and don't hesitate to shoot questions. We want pre-review your applications and saying, oh, is that a good or a bad applications? Obviously, but at the same time, we can answer very, very specific questions. And if you have a broader question as to what kind of choice of partner is ideal, what would you recommend? Again, we're here in Washington, in New York, and in the various consular districts to answer your questions. And the last thing, which is very, very important, let me say it one last time, but right now, we're very, very happy, and I'm speaking here as the director of Campus France USA, that student mobility to France has picked up again, and that we're basically at this point in time up to almost 90% of our level of 2019, which was the last year of reference. At the same time, we are a little concerned with student mobility the other way. That is to say that American campuses have been a little bit more, let's put it this way, in a diplomatic way, careful in hosting French students again. So if there is one deciding criterion between two excellent applications, it might be simply that one project is more asymmetrical, and that the other project is very, very symmetrical, and that there's a balance between between the number of students that cross the Atlantic going west and the number of students that cross the Atlantic going east. So that's one thing that I want to emphasize. But again, no discrimination, no discrimination in the sense that we do favor this type of institution, this type of stay. Our goal is really to increase the number of students who have an occasion to discover France. And if you already have an existing relationship with a partner, it always facilitates things, because you as Dorothea and Isabel said before, it facilitates working on a program. So don't hesitate to work on existing collaborations. And if they're not there, then again, we're here to help in you are initiating a new one. On that note, we wish you all a fantastic afternoon or evening for those of us who joined us from France. And we look forward to your questions, interrogations, comments, and inquiries.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.